Put simply, when you ask the right questions, you unlock your creative brain. Now, this is the part of your brain which contains all of your intuition, all of your imagination, your resourcefulness, your creativity, your gut feelings, and also all of the answers to your problems, the real answers. Hi, I'm Liam Naden, and welcome to my podcast, Let Yourself Off the Hook. As someone who has studied success for decades, I have found the formula for achieving your dreams and goals, and it's all to do with how you use your brain. Each week on my show, I will provide you with the tools, resources, and expertise to utilize your brain to its ultimate potential and remove the barriers to your success. And as you will discover, true success in every area of your life only comes when you let yourself off the hook. Hi, it's Liam Naden. Let me ask you a question. When you're going through your day and you're thinking about your problems and your life and the things that are important to you, what sort of questions are going through your mind? So think of an issue that you're struggling with right now. Maybe it's a problem in your business or in your relationship or any relationship or your finances. What are some of the things that you're saying to yourself in the form of questions? Are you saying, why can't I fix this? How do I fix this? Why is this happening to me? What do I do? Well, for most of us, questions like this go through our heads almost continuously. And it seems like no matter how often we ask, how much we try to find the answer, we simply don't get the right answers. And dealing with the problem continues to be a struggle. It's frustrating, it's depressing, and above all, it's exhausting as we continue to deal with all the stress and struggle that our problem or our life is bringing us. But what if the truth was that the questions you're asking yourself won't help? What if you won't find the answers this way? What if it'll only keep you stuck? And what if the questions themselves were not part of the solution, but part of the problem? Well, it turns out that all of this is true. And it's all to do with how your brain works. The questions you ask yourself and how you ask them can either free you or keep you stuck. In this episode, we're going to look at why this is and what you can do differently with questions that will finally bring you the breakthroughs that you're looking for. I'm also going to give you some specific examples of actual questions that you can ask yourself that are really going to help you. They'll help you make the shift from being stuck to flourishing, from simply surviving to actually thriving. I think you're going to find it pretty interesting. Okay, well, let's start by asking the question why it is that the questions you ask, both yourself and others, why they're so important. In other words, what's the big deal? I mean, you may well be thinking, look, what is the big deal about a question? A question is just a question. If I want to know the answer to something, I just ask a question. So, for instance, if I want to know the time, or if I want to know directions on how to get somewhere, or if I want to find something, I just ask somebody. Well, this is actually the first clue as to why questions have such power. And that is that when you ask a question, you usually get an answer. Now, this might seem obvious and unimportant, but it's not unimportant, it's vital. Because here's the thing. If you knew that when you ask a question, you're probably going to get an answer, wouldn't you start to ask really important questions like, what should I do with my life? What do I really need to do to get rid of this problem? How can I really be the happiest and best version of myself? Now, you actually can get the answer to these questions, and in fact, any important question. But you just need to know two things. Firstly, the right way to ask it, and secondly, who to ask. In other words, you want to ask a person who actually knows the answer. Now, again, this might seem obvious, but for instance, if you want to know the time, if you want to know the answer to the question, what is the time, then you're not going to shout at somebody angrily and demand, tell me the time, you horrible person. You're not going to say that to them. So you're going to ask in the right way. And secondly, you're going to ask somebody who you think knows the answer. You're not going to find a little baby who can't even speak. You're not going to ask them for the answer to that question. So obviously, to get the answers to the important questions in your life and the truth, you need to ask the right question in the right way and to the right person, the person who knows the answer. Well, let's change gears here a little bit and look at what some of the most important questions are that you could ask in your life. In other words, questions that are going to give you insights, information, answers that are really going to help you move forward in your life, that are going to help you solve those problems once and for all. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples here of really powerful questions, but once you start to get into this, you'll be able to come up with powerful questions of your own, questions that will really help you in your situation. So here are some great questions to think about. And as I say them, see if any answers come to your mind about your situation in your life. You might even want to write some of these questions down, or maybe listen to this again and take a note of them, because they're questions you can ask yourself over and over, and each time you do, you're going to get some great answers. So here's a really simple one, but very effective. What's the best use of my time right now? Now, this is a great question you can ask when you're feeling stuck. It's great for time management to help you be more efficient and effective in your life. And there's a variation on that question, which is, what's the most important thing for me to do right now? What's the most important thing that I should be doing right now? So that's a fairly straightforward one, an easy one to answer, very effective. But here are some other questions that go deeper into your life and will have a much more profound impact on the results you get. We'll discuss why that is shortly, but for now, here are some really powerful questions. The first one is, what am I truly grateful for in my life right now? What am I truly grateful for in my life right now? Now, we often get so bogged down in our problems and our stresses and things we're trying to change and fix in our life that we forget that actually most of our life, most of what exists for us, is pretty good. In fact, it's not just pretty good, it's amazing. So when you ask yourself, what could you be grateful for in your life, you're going to start seeing how much of your life truly is amazing. This world that you live in, how amazing it is. Even your physical body, and the fact that you're better off in your life situation than virtually everybody throughout history has been. We live in the best, the most abundant times in history. That's the truth. So here's another really powerful question. Think about a problem you're facing right now. And as you think about that problem, ask yourself this question. What's great about this problem? What's the gift that I'm being presented? What am I learning or able to learn that I wouldn't be able to learn or have if I didn't have this problem? How can this help me be a better person? These are all questions you can ask yourself about the problem you're facing right now. And if you're saying, look, Liam, hang on a second, there's nothing good about my problem. There's no gift, there's no benefit. It's not helping me in any way. Just think a little bit deeper. Think a little bit more. And ask that question again with a clear mind, without being attached to a negative outcome, and you will find a positive answer. It will be there. One of the gifts, one of the benefits, one of the great things about the problems you're facing right now is that it's teaching you and showing you that you have fears that are holding you back. And ultimately, as I talk about in my coaching programs and we've talked about in other episodes of the podcast, it's really only your fears that are blocking you from having everything you need in your life to be the best that you can be. Because your fears have a direct effect on the way your brain functions, and how your brain functions determines the results you get. So maybe if you've got a problem in your relationship or your business, you're worried about what might happen if you don't solve the problem. What will happen to you? What will happen to other people? Will you think that you're a failure? Will you end up alone and lonely? Will you not find another opportunity, another person, another way to make money that is as good as this one? Will you be filled with regrets? You know, all of these fears that we have about what might happen, that's all they are. They're just fears. So by having this problem that you're facing, this gives you an opportunity to realize that you have these fears, that they are what is holding you back. They're keeping you stuck. And most of the time, if not all of the time, they're not only irrational fears, but they're not true. And here's another great question to ask yourself when you're dealing with a problem or a frustration or something about your life that you're not happy about. Think about it and ask yourself, why doesn't this matter? Why doesn't this matter? Now, if you really ask yourself that question, you realize it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're trying to win an argument, if you're trying to make more money, if you're trying to heal your marriage or your relationship, what if none of those things that you're trying to achieve actually happened? Would it really matter? What if something better happened instead? Then it wouldn't matter, would it, that you hadn't solved that problem? So it doesn't really matter because you don't know that there's not something better coming along for you. And is it really a big deal what other people think or what you think? And isn't it true that you can't see what's going to happen to you in the future? Why not know that good things will happen? So these are some of the really powerful questions that you can ask yourself. And I've really only scratched the surface, but you see the theme here. One of the really important things to realize is that when you ask these questions, you get answers, you get different sorts of answers to the questions that you might have been asking before about why do I have problems in my life or why can't I fix this? Now again, your brain might be saying to you, oh, hang on, Liam, this is just mind games. This is just playing with my head. And the problems that I have, I can't find the solutions. And not only can't I find the solutions, but it really does matter that I find a solution, that I heal that relationship, that I make this business work, that I make this job work, that I get rid of this struggle that I have with a family member or this thing that's not making me feel good. It's really important that I find the answer to solving that problem. In other words, you're saying to yourself, it really does matter. Now, if you're thinking that, and that's totally understandable, there's a couple of things to realize. The first is, you're not really asking those questions, the ones that I've suggested to you. If you're thinking about your problem, you're not really asking what's the gift here. You're really saying, I don't think there's a gift here. So in other words, you're asking different questions. You're saying, why isn't this working? How do I fix this problem? And as I just mentioned, the questions you're really asking instead of those questions are what most people are asking themselves on an almost continual basis. And they're things like, why can't I solve this problem? Why is life so hard? Why is life so unfair? Why can't I be happy? Why can't I find what to do with my life? Why can't I make more money? Why is my relationship so full of problems? Why doesn't my wife or my husband, why don't they love me as much as they used to? Why don't they respond in the way they used to? And here's one you're probably thinking as well when you're asking these sorts of questions. What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Why am I such a failure? Why can't I do this? And remember, ask a question, you're going to get an answer. So for instance, if you continually ask yourself the question, why can't I solve this problem? Then you're going to get answers like, well, it's too difficult. You don't have enough information. You're not trying hard enough. It's all your fault. And of course, if you don't have enough money and you're asking yourself, why don't I have enough money? Why can't I make more money? Well, you're going to get answers such as, well, of course, making money is difficult. The economy is in bad shape. And you'll be thinking, it's because you don't know how to make more money. Now you can see that all of these answers that come from asking those questions, they're only going to keep you stuck. They're only going to keep you feeling more depressed, more frustrated, more worried than ever. So the first thing, as I've said earlier, to realize is what exactly the questions are that you're asking yourself, and whether those questions are really going to give you answers that are going to help you in your life, or whether they're simply going to reinforce your problems. But the second thing to realize is why. Why, in addition to getting better answers so that in other words, answers that can truly help you, why asking better questions is so important, and it's to do with how your brain operates. Put simply, when you ask the right questions, you unlock your creative brain. Now, this is the part of your brain which contains all of your intuition, all of your imagination, your resourcefulness, your creativity, your gut feelings, and also all of the answers to your problems, the real answers. You have access, in other words, to all of the resources you need really to solve the problem and to give you everything that you want. But if you ask the wrong questions, you actually shut down that creative brain and you activate another part of your brain, your survival brain. And this part of your brain is very limited. And being stuck using this part of your brain is what keeps you stuck in your life. It keeps the problems coming. It keeps you from seeing the answers. It keeps you from doing the right things. So why is that? Why is it that asking the right questions, those empowering questions, why does that activate your creative brain and allow you to find the real solutions? And why does asking the wrong questions shut down that part of your brain and keep you stuck using a different part of your brain? Well, it's all to do with feelings, because how you feel determines which part of your brain you're actually using, which part you're activating. When you feel good, resourceful, happy, grateful, and loving, which those questions, those empowering questions that I gave you, make you feel, that unlocks your creative brain. When you feel stressed, frustrated, worried, angry, by asking yourself all of those other questions that keep you stuck, like, why am I a failure? Why can't I make this work? What's wrong? And how do I fix this? When you do that, you activate this other part of your brain that keeps you stuck. Because here's the thing, when you ask yourself those good questions, when you ask yourself, what am I grateful for? What's good about my situation? What's good about this problem? Why doesn't it really matter? Isn't it true when you ask yourself those questions, you feel better? You feel more hopeful, more optimistic. You might even feel a bit curious to say, maybe things aren't as bad as I thought, or maybe there's another way to look at this, or maybe there's something I don't know about this. And all of that makes you feel good. In contrast, how do you feel when you ask those other questions about what's wrong with me? Why can't I fix this? You don't feel good. You feel stressed and frustrated. So it's as simple as realizing that the questions you ask affect how you feel. That activates a particular part of your brain, and that part of your brain will bring you the answers. And if it's your creative brain, where all of your problem-solving resources are, it's going to bring you the right answers. So it's obvious, isn't it? You need to develop a habit or a way of learning to activate your creative brain by asking yourself the right questions. Questions that are going to make you feel empowered, make you feel good, and bring you a different perspective and a true perspective on your life, which is what your creative brain does. It sees the truth, it sees the totality. It has higher awareness of who you are and what you need to be your best. So it really is just a habit. It's about getting out of that old habit of asking all of those disempowering questions and getting in the habit of asking yourself the right questions, better questions. And we've talked before about habits, and this is just a habit. Now you might be thinking, well, all this is difficult. How can I've got so many problems, so many things going wrong. I'm so frustrated in my life, and I've been frustrated for so long. How can I start changing this habit? And how can I start asking better questions on a regular basis and not falling into the trap of asking all of those negative questions? Well, of course, like any habit, it's going to take a little bit of time and to start with a bit of effort. But you can do it, like any habit. And you'll get to the point when you're, instead of asking negative questions, you're going to be asking these positive questions. What's good about this? What's the gift? What's another way to look at this that I haven't seen? How is this helping me? What could be great about this? How could I perhaps look back in 5 or 10 years and think, that was fantastic. That was great that happened. What am I so grateful for in my life? When I look around, what am I missing that's going on in this universe that right now that is so incredible that I'm missing because I'm bogged down on my problems? So it's going to take a bit of time. It's going to take a bit of effort to develop this new habit. And you're not going to do it right all the time. You know, at times you're going to fall back into the habit of asking the wrong questions, negative questions. And you're going to catch yourself thinking, why is this happening to me? Why can't I fix this? How do I fix this? Why is life so hard? You're going to do that from time to time. But when you catch yourself, you can immediately change it and say, that's the old habit. What's a different way of looking at this? What's actually good about this? And when you do that, you're going to change your emotional state. You're going to go from feeling stressed, frustrated, worried, angry, to hopeful, curious, feeling better. And when you do that, your creative brain is going to bring you better solutions, insights, new answers, new ideas. And it's also going to help you take away those fears that have been blocking you by making you realize that when you follow your creative brain, when you have a little bit of faith and trust that it knows what's best for you, things are going to turn out for the best. One day you are going to be using this part of your brain all of the time and living your best life without problems and frustration. Now, one thing I do, and I've been doing this for a long time, and you might find it a really useful thing to do as well, is that I use that time first thing in the morning when I'm just waking up, still half asleep, and also that time last thing at night where I'm also just half asleep, when I don't have so much resistance going on in my mind, when there's not so much clutter in my brain. That's the time I use, those two times, as special times to start asking these good questions. What's great about my life? So at the end of the day, it's like, what was great about what happened today? What were some of the great things that happened? What are some of the amazing things that 5 or 10 years ago I couldn't have believed could have possibly happened? What's amazing about this universe that we live in? What's amazing, just even my physical body, the way it operates, the way nature operates. And first thing in the morning, you can say things like, I wonder what's going to happen today that's going to be really amazing. And you'll find yourself starting to have conversations with yourself where you're asking questions, really good questions, and you're getting great answers back. And when you do that, you start to realize that the answers are not coming from your logical thinking brain. They're not coming from your experience. They're coming from somewhere else. There's like an intelligence, an infinite intelligence, a wisdom that's giving you these answers. And you say to yourself, wow, where did that come from? What an amazing idea. I never thought of that. And you realize this is your creative brain. Your creative brain tapping into infinite intelligence to bring you the answers that you need. Not just stuff based on your past experience and your limited thinking, but insights, awarenesses, the truth. And how do you know it's a good question to ask? How it makes you feel. If the answers that you get make you feel good, or at least a little bit better, a little bit more hopeful, you know it's coming from your creative brain. You know, the thing is, when you ask empowering questions, you will get empowering answers. You'll get the truth, and you'll know it's the truth. It might make you feel a little bit unsettled, but you'll know that it's the truth. And you'll know that it's the path that you should go down, that it does have the answers, the solutions to everything that you're looking for. And the great thing is as well is that your awareness expands. You start to develop a new awareness of who you really are, of what your life is really about, of what all life is really about. You'll begin to realize why you're really here and why your life is unfolding the way it is. And you'll start to feel your life unfolding in a magical, miraculous, and what really is the right way. And you'll let yourself off the hook. You'll start to live your biological purpose, which is to be the best that you can be.